Hi, this is Shalimar Steinberg, and today we're talking about the second part of our parking lot assignment for number 11. And in the first part, we created our parking spaces and walkway, and you should be creating a ramp as well if you haven't already. If we look at the example here, we have our accessible parking, our aisle. We'll have our 4 regular slots next to that. Here is the ramp. You can estimate that this is about 4 inches further out on the side here. It cannot come down below this curb area, and it's about halfway up the walkway, and we talked about it in class and decided that the walkway is probably about 8 feet because it looks about the same width as the no parking aisle. So then today's steps are to go in and add the no parking text to your aisle. And that's at 1.5 to 1.25 to 1.5 inches. You decide what fits the best and angle it at a 36-degree angle so that it fits in between the slots here. Then we're going to be adding these 4 signs as blocks with attributes on them so that we are able to change what they say as we insert each one in. That's the part that I'm going to show you right now. And we'll also be adding 4 slots for the apartment complex. So we're going to go ahead and go into our AutoCAD space, and you can see that I have my 4 areas drawn here and my accessible and aisle. And then I have my walkway here, which I will hatch after I've put in the signs so that the hatch goes around the signs. So I'm going to go ahead and start by making a rectangle. And with that rectangle, I'm going to tell it that I want dimensions specifically, and I want my length to be 2 feet and my width to be 1 foot. And that's going to give me this rectangle here. Then I'm going to zoom in on it a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and add attributes to it, as we talked about in class today. Remember that attributes are text features that can be added to a block and then can be set so that every time you insert the block, it asks you what values you want entered for your attributes. So I'm going to use the attribute definition command, which is attdef, and you can see that it comes up as soon as I do the attdef, or D, sorry. We're not going to set this one to invisible because we want the text to be seen. We're going to lock the position because once I place them inside my box, I want them to stay there. I'm going to use the attribute for the first one of type, which is a prompt of what kind of sign is it. And this is asking me so that I know what to fill in each time. And I'm just going to go ahead and put in a 0 for this one because I want it to prompt me every time to put something in. As far as the height goes, my box is approximately 1 foot tall, so I want text that's going to show at approximately the right height for that size. I'm going to go ahead and say 3-inch text should work pretty well, so I'm going to go with that, and 0 rotation because I want it to be horizontal. My justification right now is left, but I would actually like it to be middle center so that it's kind of centered in the object. And I want the Arial text style. Now I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And I'm going to place the text right here in my box. And it actually didn't justify it quite where I would like it to, so I'm going to move it over a little bit. There we go. And escape out. Then I'm going to do another one for the same block. And on this one, I'm going to call it model, because I want to know what model number this is. And I had it right the first time. It's one of those words I always mistake. Then I'm going to say what is the model number so that the person who was getting this drawing and making the ordering would be able to order the right objects. And then I'm going to again put a 0 in there. I want the same text. I'm going to go ahead with the same justification. And then I'm going to say a line below previous attribute definition. This helps me to make sure that it's lined up with my previous one, as you can see nicely right under it. Now right now they just say type in model. Once I've saved the block definitions, then it will ask me a question every time I insert the block. So I'm now going to do B for block command, and I'm going to name this access sign. And for the base point, I'm going to pick the center midpoint of the bottom here. And then I want to select objects on the screen. And I'm going to tell it to delete the original block because I don't want one off to the side here. I'm going to insert them everywhere that I want them in the drawing. So I'll select my objects, and I'm picking the box and the two attributes that I've created and hitting enter. Then I'm also going to make sure that it says scale uniformly. That means that as it gets bigger or smaller, my text won't change shape, which is important. And allow exploding. I could also add a description at this point if I wanted to. I'm going to say OK, and you can see it deleted my sign, so now I can go down here and I can add them in where they're supposed to be. So there should be two right over the first accessible parking space here. And then I have the option of putting one sign here on the back of the walkway for the aisle route, or I can put a sign here with an arrow sign that points over to the aisle, which is what I'm going to do in this case. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab and choose Insert. I'm going to scroll down until I get to where it has the block that I just made. And then I'm going to go ahead and come down here. I want to leave enough room for the second one below it because they're going to be stacked on a pole basically. So I'm going to push this first one right here. And it now asks me what kind of sign is it, to which I'm going to say it is reserved parking. And what is the model number, to which I'm going to look at my sample, and the model number for this sign is R7-8. So I'll go back in, and that's R7-8. And then I can say OK. And it has now changed my text in order to fit that size. I could do my text a little smaller so that it fit within the sign. If I had done 2-inch text, it would probably have fit within. So you may want to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and do the next sign right below it. So I'm going to insert and do that same one. And I'm going to go from the center point down there so that they're lined up nicely. And on this one, what kind of sign is it? I'm going to say van accessible. And the model number for that one is R7-8A, if you look right here. And R7-8A. And this could be used by the contractor who has to order the signs in for the project or anybody else. Okay, so then I'm going to insert it again right here, and I'm going to line it up with the center so that they stay aligned pretty well. And this one is going to say access aisle. And the model number on that one right here is OR7-9. Okay, one last time for this block. Gonna this time line it up with this one and with this one, and where they meet is where I'm going to click it. And this one I'm just going to call arrow because it's just the arrow pointing at the aisle, and I look for the sign number for that, and it is OR7-9A. Since we're using this combination, we do not need this one as well. It would be either this one or these two. So OR7-9A. And I'll say OK. Now I've got the signs for my accessible parking spots, and I now want to create a block that will be the signs for my 4 standard parking spots. So I'm going to go back here, and I am again going to create a rectangle, and I'm going to give it the same dimensions. And then I'm going to again put in attributes, and this one I'm going to call status. And how is the spot designated? And the default is going to be reserved because all of the spots for this project are reserved. And I will say the same height. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. So I will put this one in here. And then I will do one more. And I will call this one, let's look at the assignment so I can remember what I told you to call it. Number, for apartment number. So and I'm going to use the word apartment. Actually, I'll use the whole word instead of the contraction. And then OO, and that way I can change it every time for the specific apartment. I'm also going to make sure again that I collect a line below previous attribute definition, and it lined it up there for me nicely. Now I can go ahead and do the B for block, and I'm going to call this one apartment sign, and specify my base point again right here at the bottom. Select the objects, make sure it says delete, scale uniformly and allow exploding, and I say OK. Now I can go back down in here, go to the insert command, and insert my block. And I'm going to go ahead and line it up with these ones so that it's nicely centered. And I'm going to use the midpoint of my little parking space there. And it says reserved, and I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to change it to apartment 01 for the first one. And I could explode it if I need to move that text, but I'm just going to leave it as is for now. And then I'm going to insert the second one. And apartment 02. There we go. And apartment 03. And the final one. Apartment 04. Alright, so now I have all of my signage in. I'm going to go ahead and go to my B-Space template. I'm going to double click into my window, and first I'm going to zoom extent so I can see everything. Then I'm going to come down here and pick a scale that works well with it. So that is a little less than, it's a little more than 1/8, but not quite 3/32. So let's try 1/8 there. And that's pretty small. Let's see if 3/32, or sorry, that's the wrong direction. Let's see if 3/16 will do it. That works pretty well. And you can see that the text is smaller than is ideal, but will probably be able to be read on the printout. and 1/4 inch is just a little too big, so it's going to be that 3/16. And then I would go ahead and double click out here, and as you see, when you zoom in you can read the text, so when we print it out you should be able to read the text. It'll just be pretty small. And because this is signage, it doesn't have to have the text should show a 1/8 rule necessarily. Then you're going to edit your title block and go ahead and submit your drawing.